We are in a spiritual war. And that spiritual, these demons, for lack of a better word, I think it's a good word, that run this world, they feed off of our fear energy. Some people call it LOOSH energy. Look up LOOSH energy. There's lots of videos about it. And they literally feed off this fear. They don't care what side of the argument. You like the Jews, you don't like the Jews. You agree with the war, you don't agree with the war. They just want us fighting. They want us separated. They want us fighting. They want us in fear.
Hey friends, welcome back. Thanks so much for being here. That was my good friend David Weiss. And as you all probably know by now, because the Mossad admitted as much on 60 Minutes, the world is a stage. We've got lockdowns 2.0 on the horizon, a never-ending war with Iran none of us voted for, and Congressman Randy Fine sinking to a new low, one that even shocked me. Friends, we have so much to talk about today, including the LOOSH demonic harvesting of human energy. I thank you so much for tuning in, friends. Before we start, just a quick word about an incredibly valued sponsor and one of the shortest, most to-the-point ads you've ever heard.
Okay, my results are in, and I have not looked at them yet. Kind of nervous. Unbelievable. mRNA sequence presence, yes. And it tells you which pharmaceutical company is in your blood. Disruption of RNA, yes. Disruption of DNA, yes. I am livid. Again, no vaccines.
Yes, that lovely unvaxxed woman begs everyone to share that one because it could help others. She never took the bioweapon masquerading as a vaccine, and yet her blood is filled with the very same bioweapons markers as those who willingly took the COVID death jabs. It's more validation of everything we've been telling you. We are all transfected, and you have Pfizer and Moderna to thank for it. But you can get it out of your blood. There's a proven, reliable, documented way to drastically reduce graphene, nanotech, aluminum, even glyphosate from your blood. Masterpiece. The C plasma-based nanozeolite with proven results. This master binder neutralizes virtually all known toxins. Do the blood tests for yourself, then get Masterpiece. 6 drops twice a day under the tongue is all you need. Masterpiece. The link is below. Hey friends, welcome back. Thank you so very much for being here. Sean from SGT Report. Guys, I have a heck of a show prepared for you today, and what you're looking at on my screen is the fact that Donald J. Trump is making preparations to send nearly 12,000 U.S. soldiers to Iran. This will be a meat grinder. I want you to make no mistake about that, especially those of you listening who have young sons. Will you send your son to die in a foreign land for Israel? Here's the report, folks. It's happening. I'm so sorry to tell you, it's actually happening.
Pentagon is expected to send thousands of soldiers to the Middle East from the U.S. Army's elite 82nd Airborne Division stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. That's according to 2 people familiar with the matter. It would add to a massive U.S. military buildup as the U.S.-Israeli conflict with Iran continues. The move would expand options to include deployment of forces inside Iranian territory and could dramatically raise the stakes in the operation, which is already in its 4th week and has roiled global markets.
All right, I'll pause it there. How much more of this are you willing to take? By the way, we're going to get into a brief news update, but I want to welcome my guest first. And let me tell you guys, when you've been doing this as long as I do, you get some high-level contacts. And fortunately for me, our next guest comes to us live from the International Space Station. I'm so gratified to have a real astronaut on the show. David Weiss, how are you, sir?
Hey, Sean, thanks for having me. We only have a little time here before we lose satellite communication, and we're going to go to black because for some reason we can't broadcast from one side of the planet. The reason I'm in the International Space Station, Sean, is because I figured with all the stuff we're talking about, all the fake news, fake things that are happening, fake reasons that they're happening, I might as well broadcast from a fake location.
Well, I got to tell you, your timing is good. My wife and I, last night, saw the new Ryan Gosling film, Hail Mary. And later in the show, guys, I'll play a clip from the trailer. And then I'll tell you what the narrative, what the storyline of that film was. I think Dave will be very amused. But I want to share this with folks. Pandemic-style lockdowns are coming, folks. I'm calling them lockdowns 2.0. They're going to shove United Nations Agenda 2030 policies down our throats one way or another. And the energy lockdown narrative has now started. They're rolling this stuff out, guys. Think Hunger Games on steroids. Think only being able to drive your car every other day based on your license plate. And what David Icke notes, guys, is this is precisely what the Iran war is all about. You have to look into the shadows and not be mesmerized by the us versus them level of Trump and Netanyahu versus Iran, etc. rhetoric. Always look at the outcome. Folks, an old professor of mine at the University of Wisconsin told me, God rest his soul, Henry. He said, Sean, the world is a stage. David Weiss, the world is indeed a stage, isn't it?
You know, it's funny. That's the first thing I had in my notes to say to you. The line, all the world is a stage, comes from who? William Shakespeare. Right. But the world is such a stage that if you look into William Shakespeare, he wasn't even a real person. So the guy that said the world is a stage character of a guy who said that. That's how bad it is. That's how bad this place is.
Yeah, Willie Shakespeare also said something else I resonate with. I think we all do at this point. He stated in one of his plays, I forget which one, first thing, let's kill all the lawyers. That's a quote from William Shakespeare. By the way, guys, I hold in my hands here the Slurry report from 2025. I've hung on to this one. I hang on to all of them. They're beautiful. But this one's titled Plunder. Plunder in 2025. Well, guess what's happening now? Traders placed a $500 million bet on oil ahead of Donald Trump's social media posts on Iran talks the other day. And Chris Martenson notes, if nobody goes to jail for this, we have entered every man for himself territory. I'm calling it plunder. For those who don't know what we're talking about, it's actually getting some coverage by the mainstream horror media because it's such a big deal and it was so obviously criminal. Listen to this.
But now have a look at the S&P 500. So this is S&P 500 futures. It's the biggest kind of exchange, stock market, equity market in the world. Same thing again. Donald Trump posts, the price goes up because people are getting very hopeful. Volumes go up at the same time. And if we zoom into the volumes once again, what do you see? Obviously, there's the volume after Donald Trump made his post, but 15 minutes before, this is actually 10:50 UK time, a very, very big trade.
Just to put that in perspective, that was somewhere in the neighborhood of a $1.5 billion bet for oil to drop. Just 10 minutes before Trump made the announcement of negotiations going well with Iran, which appears to be a total fable, a total lie. Negotiations aren't going well, and Trump is sending troops to that region of the country. By the way, guys, when we come back to the news, Alan Dershowitz has gone full-blown Bolshevik. But I wanted to get Dave's thoughts on what I just shared. The Trump administration appears to be, at least somebody within that circle is hopelessly corrupt. Dave?
Yeah, Donald's manipulating, trillions of dollars of funds on a platform that he has stock in, and making money up and down. They're making money on both sides of the trade. It's absolute insanity. Now, Sean, a year or two ago, you were on fully on the Trump train. Do you have one foot off the train at this point?
Well, I think you know that I do because I've interviewed Max Egan twice just recently. I don't know if you caught those broadcasts, but I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong. And a lot of people in the space, I'm calling most of them at this point knee benders: Gunther Eagleman, Insurrection Barbie, Ashton Forbes, Brandon Tatum. The list is long of the knee benders that put Israel first. And by the way, David, tell us never, ever never, ever investigate on your own who actually murdered Charlie Kirk. Don't go there and stop harassing the grieving widow, Erica Kirk.
Balls deep.
Balls?
Yep.
Yep,
Balls
we're going
deep.
in. We're going in.
Wow. Hello.
The CEO of TPUSA, a public figure, but a grieving widow. Don't question the grieving widow. I'm asking a lot of questions at this point, Dave.
Yeah, there's the whole Erica Kirk thing. That's a whole nother. That we can take an hour on that alone. But
and by the way, that's tied to Donald J. Trump through the pageant and
100%.
through the work that Candace has uncovered, deep military ties via Erica Kirk to Fort Huachuca and military figures in Romania, where she started that orphanage, through her mother, through her father with Israel. Look, she appears to be 100% some sort of asset. David, the question is, an asset for who?
That's a great question. And, when you understand that this entire world is a stage, it's a stage bigger than you and I even realize on the top of our minds here. There's so much to it. So think about this. We're negotiating the Samson option they're talking about on the news now. Israel could pull the plug and the nukes here. Have we talked about nukes here?
Oh, we will. We'll talk about nukes.
Yeah,
I know a lot of folks don't believe nukes are real, and I've covered that recently with people like Max.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you take the time and look, not only will you discover the things that I've discovered about the Earth that we live on, you'll discover it's not a question anymore. Nukes aren't real. Here's the bad side. The directed energy weapons, the plasma weapons they have are probably worse than nukes, but nukes are not real. So whenever you hear a newscaster saying, oh, this nuke option, that nuke option, either they're part of the plan or they're just ignorant to it and believing the story.
Yeah, and here's the thing that Dave and I try very hard not to do. We try very hard not to use conjecture and hyperbole. So when Dave tells you the world is a stage, here's the Mossad telling you the truth, telling 60 Minutes the truth.
How did you convince Hezbollah to buy this?
Well, obviously, they didn't know that they were buying it from Israel.
Who did they buy it from, or think they were buying it from?
We have an incredible array of possibilities of creating foreign companies that have no way being traced back to Israel, shell companies over shell companies who affect the supply chain to our favor. We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors. We're the producers. We're the main actors. The world is our stage.
Okay. When I first heard that, Dave Weiss, I thought that could not be real. I believed it to be AI. I didn't even retweet it for a few days until I saw others taking a look at it, and I thought, oh, that's legitimate. Went back to the source. Yes, that actually happened. That interview actually happened on 60 Minutes. Now, I want to play this from Alan Dershowitz, because those two clips tie together. Alan Dershowitz, one of the attorneys who has defended Jeffrey Epstein, well, he's just gone full Bolshevik, folks. And as Candace has told us, the Bolsheviks are here. They certainly are. And I think Alan Dershowitz is one of them. Listen to this.
We're seeing an attempted coup within the Republican Party by neo-Nazi fascists led by Kemp, who is a clear neo-Nazi fascist. And then also by Tucker Carlson, by Fuentes, by Owens. We're seeing an attempt by these neo-Nazis to take over the Republican Party. Fortunately, good Republicans, headed by President Trump, are stopping it.
Okay, so let that sink in. Joe Kent, who said he was not allowed to investigate Charlie Kirk's assassination, to look into the possibility of foreign interference, he's a neo-Nazi fascist, as is Tucker Carlson, the person who traveled to Israel to speak to Huckabee and got Huckabee to admit it would be okay if Rothschild just took it all. Greater Israel, just take it all.
It would be fine if they took it all.
They have the biblical deed to all the land in Saudi Arabia, land in Lebanon. Land all over that region will be taken by the Rothschilds if Huckabee has anything to say about it. Meanwhile, Tucker, Candace Owens, and Joe Kent are the neo-Nazi fascists. Dave Weiss?
So I want to just stick on the nukes for 1 second. If I show you,
oh wait, don't do that to me. Don't just stick on the nukes for 1 second. I want you to address what that piece of filth just said, who puts Israel first and who calls people that are asking actual questions the neo-Nazi fascists when he's the Bolshevik, and when the Bolsheviks were actually brought to this country after World War II under Operation Paperclip. Dave?
Yeah, no, it's incredible that they want us to not do what comes naturally. They don't want us to do what is honest. I mean, don't ask questions about this thing that's obviously wrong. It's incredible, and people just go along because somebody that they view as high up, as an authority, tells them not to do it. So they're like, oh, no, let's not do that. And then, here's the problem. It's called information overload. When we get information overload, we can't process the information fast enough. So then we just default to reactions. And that's what they're going for, the problem, reaction, solution. So they want us just to react to these things and not really question.
Well, and the thing is, Dave, is that the reaction from the American people at this point should be what we've seen, which is we don't support the war, despite CNN saying Trump has 100% approval from his base. Well, that's the base that Dershowitz just described. That's Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, Insurrection Barbie, Gunther Eagleman, the knee benders. Evidently, the only people polled that resulted in a 100% approval rate from the mega base for Trump by CNN. The only people polled were the knee benders, Dave. And by the way, I got a knee bender for you. You guys need to see this. This has got to get on the historical record. This is Congressman Randy Fine. Guys, if you don't think this conversation we're having today is deadly serious, despite Dave not actually being in the International Space Station, I want you to understand what we're up against. This is a sitting U.S. congressperson. Look at this clown, and then look at Shrek standing to his right. Is that Randy's wife? I'm not sure. Apologies to Randy's wife if that's you, Shrek, but I got to tell you, get that damn thing off your head in the people's house. Check this out.
Jews around the country that they don't need to hide who they are. We need to stand up for what is right, not be afraid, not be ashamed, and to pound sand to those who don't like us very much. And so I wear it every day, and I'm proud to do it.
Amazing. I love that. I really hope that many other politicians, people in business, and just Jews around America follow in Congressman Fine's footsteps. Be proud. Like, Mr. Congressman, you didn't grow up wearing a kippah. You never worked.
I never wore a kippah other than services. Prior to May the 6th of last year. Yeah. And literally what inspired me to do it, when I decided to start wearing it, it was we were sort of unsure, did we want to do this? And then 3 days after I started wearing it, I got to be the speaker pro tem, and an Orthodox family came into the gallery, and the kids were pointing at me because they saw someone that looked like them. And I remember asking staff, I said, well, has anyone up here ever worn a kippah before? And they go, not only has no one ever worn a kippah up here, in the 249-year history of the United States, no member of Congress has ever worn one. And I thought, well, I guess then that means it falls to me.
Okay. So his interpretation of the fact that nobody in the history of the People's House has ever worn that clown outfit in the People's House, his takeaway is, well, I guess it falls on me to demonstrate what a traitor I am and what a cuck I am for the state of Israel, as he literally, guys, let me back this up, as he literally performs Talmudic rituals in the People's House. I just had to get that on the historical record, Dave.
I knew nothing about that. That's incredible.
Well, we wage war against spiritual entities, darkness in high places, Dave.
Yeah, that's the full quote. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. That is a fact of this world, and the way you win a spiritual war is convince people that it's not real.
Dang it, you're out of your capsule. I've really enjoyed seeing you in the
I'm going to go back to the capsule, but I want to show you something.
We're going to talk about nukes, aren't we?
No, well, we're gonna say you gotta understand, if somebody lies to you, then they're pretty much a liar. Here's on the International Space Station, you can see this wire. So this is just one of thousands of fails. So now we catch them using wires to fake weightlessness on the International Space Station. So now we know something about NASA. So we really can't trust anything that NASA has. So I'm going to show you a video, Sean, and I want your honest opinion of it. So here we go. We have this island. This is a U.S. naval video of a nuclear bomb going off. And I want you to notice these clouds right here that the nuke is going to just blast right through. These clouds right here. It's going to blast right through them. Now, this is supposed to liquefy flesh, turn things into atoms, right? And the clouds didn't move at all. The clouds didn't move at all. I'll show you side by side. Let me just jump forward here. Side by side. Before and after. So what does that tell you about this film? It tells you that this film is not a nuclear bomb, that it's fake, that it's AI, or it was just faked, put out by the U.S. Naval Forces. Therefore, what is that telling you? That's just another example of why nukes aren't real. On my website, flatearthdave.com, on the bottom, there's a nuclear bombs banner. There's a couple podcasts by one of our good friend, Crow 777 Radio, where he goes through the whole history of nuclear bombs and proven to be not real. I mean, nuclear bombs, we're taught that the radiation lasts for 30,000 years is the half-life or something. Go look at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They're thriving better than we are. They have less cancer than we have. And 3 days after the bombs went off, they were selling sandwiches on the streets. The flower shops were open. Businesses were open. The trains were running. Does that sound like a nuclear bomb?
Matt from Cultivate Elevate agrees with you, and he talks about the amount of TNT used to create explosions like that one. And he also cites Nagasaki and Hiroshima with the carpet bombing. And guess what cities are thriving today? They look way more beautiful than any of the cities we have in the United States, Nagasaki
But
and Hiroshima.
here's a funny thing. People cling to the things that they fear. People don't want to give up nuclear bombs. People don't want to give up the ball Earth, right? Because they're clinging to it because we were taught that when we were 5 years old. When something challenges something that you were taught, you revert to the age where you were taught it. And you argue it from that mentality. So when you talk to somebody, tell them the earth is not a ball, they literally become a 5-year-old because that's when it was programmed into them. You know, when you're 5, you'll believe anything you're told by your teacher and it goes into your subconscious memory as true. But if I told you I used to be the president of the United States, you're going to store that information as false with no need to verify. Yeah. But a child, if I said, "Hey, I was the president of the United States," they're like, "Oh, really? That's interesting," and they're not gonna question it. But if later in life, they see a documentary and they're like, "Oh, look, he was the president of the United States," and then someone else tells them, and then a book says it, they're gonna believe it for their whole life. And that's where we're at right now. People believe nuclear bombs are real. People believe that we're spinning, wet space ball in a space vacuum. They don't know their own model. They don't know anything, but it's these beliefs. It's the foundation of the lies. It's how they get away with war. It's how they get away with all of the, stuff that's going on with children. It's how they get away with everything because people don't know where they are. They don't know their true power.
Well, and by the way, the Congress critters and senatorial goblins just voted to allow this war to go on because they're not voting to do anything about it. And let me show you this, Dave. Went and saw this film last night with my wife. It's really a kid's film, very PG, very E.T. kind of centric. Pretty good performance by Ryan Gosling, but I want to play part of the trailer for you guys and then tell you what the movie is about, the subject matter, the narrative.
Please state your name.
Ryland Grace. I just woke up from a coma. I'm several light years from my apartment. And I'm not an astronaut. I'm not an astronaut. I'm not an astronaut.
If you don't go, you die. With the rest of us.
Alrighty, so why would we all die? Why does this scientist have to go into space with the other astronauts to try to save Earth? Well, Dave Weiss, you'll be amused to learn it's because the sun is dimming and they can't figure out why. And other suns in the galaxy are dimming. And so he has to go and figure out why, because there's one sun way the heck out there, one star that's not dimming, and they need to study that star in order to save our star, the sun, because otherwise in 30 years, half the population of the United States will die from famine. Well, what does Bill Gates want to do in real life? He wants to dim the sun.
Yeah.
So the movie tells us that that's a bad thing. It'll kill half the world's population. So the hero, the protagonist, Ryan Gosling, has to go and save the world from the dimming sun. Meanwhile, the demon incarnate on planet Earth right now today, Bill Gates wants to dim the sun. We see the problem here, Dave?
Right. And I mean, if you look what they've been doing for decades now with the spraying of the skies. It used to be a conspiracy theory, but now there's a million programs, patents. They admit that they're doing it. They're writing laws to ban it, which they can't do, which, it has no effect. But our skies are dimmed already. Our sun has changed color, I believe, because of the geoengineering that they're doing in the sky. And people are like, well, how could it change the color of the sun? If you believe in the heliocentric model, it makes no sense. But if you understand the level plane Earth model, the flat Earth model, the sun that we see is within our atmosphere, and it is interacting with all of the stuff that they're putting up there. We live in a frequency-based world. The sun is a frequency. We are frequencies. Everything is a frequency, and they're literally trying to destroy this creation.
That's not hyperbole, and that's not conjecture. And what they can't accomplish via war, because that is one of their favorite meat grinders to call the population, they will accomplish through United Nations Agenda 2030 policies. So in addition to that, dimming the sun, see, here's the thing. They want famine. They want to shut down the Strait of Hormuz because now no fertilizer's coming through, and we're going to see food shortages in this country For sure, even if this war were to end in short order, God help us if it goes on forever. And now Trump is saying he wants to send troops in there to try to take control of the Strait of Hormuz. Here's a better idea, Dave. Don't start the damn war in the first place, which his generals warned him against doing, and he did it anyway.
If you notice, we go from crisis to crisis to crisis. I believe, and now we might lose some people on this, but we are in a spiritual war. And that these demons, for lack of a better word, I think it's a good word, that run this world, they feed off of our fear energy. Some people call it LOOSH energy. Look up LOOSH energy. There's lots of videos about it. And they literally feed off this fear. They don't care what side of the argument. You like the Jews, you don't like the Jews. You agree with the war, you don't agree with the war. They just want us fighting. They want us separated. They want us fighting. They want us in fear. So they give us movies like this. Kids, after watching that movie, will have fear all night long. They'll be feeding these demons with their fear energy. They literally live off of our fear energy. They need us to create the world that they want. The good news is, if we unplug from this matrix, if we stop feeding them, they're very efficient farmers. We're on a LOOSH farm. If we don't give them the fear, if we don't fight back, I don't mean just lay down and do anything. We have to take action. But if we don't give them that fear energy, if we give them the opposite, which is love energy, they just leave us alone because they're efficient farmers. They don't need love. They need fear to operate.
Here's why I enjoy talking to Dave, guys. I'll make a confession. Prior to hitting record, you asked me, had I ever heard of LOOSH energy or LOOSH energy? And I confess that I didn't think I had, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, here's how my brain works. I'm going to tie in an example, a real world example of LOOSH or LOOSH energy, tongue in cheek, guys. Pardon the pun, but I think it's completely accurate. When I mention the knee benders, I will throw Dana LOOSH or Dana LOOSH into that bucket along with Insurrection Barbie, Gunther Eagleman, Ashton Forbes, Brandon Tatum, all the knee benders. Because here's Dana LOOSH now siding with TPUSA, begging people to stop asking questions about who actually done it, who actually murdered Charlie Kirk. And now she's impugning the character of Joe Kent, the Joe Kent who said, I'm stepping down because they didn't allow me to investigate the possibility of foreign interference in Charlie Kirk's assassination. Dana LOOSH says, a now ex-government official, Joe Kent, angry at the world who wants to burn it all down because he lacks the clout to do so will instead try to help get a transgender killer off the hook. Grotesque. No, you know what's grotesque, Dana LOOSH, and your LOOSH energy is the fact that you're covering up the murder, the assassination of Charlie Kirk in broad daylight because you don't want the people to know who actually done it. Candace Owens does, and it appears to be a very well-heeled conspiratorial military op. And meanwhile, Joe Kent has pledged, if called, to appear as a witness for the defense to declare the truth, and it's merely the truth, Dave. He was not allowed, and neither was Tulsi Gabbard, to investigate the possibility of foreign interference, foreign involvement in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And now this witch, Dana LOOSH, with her LOOSH energy, is impugning the character of anybody that questions the official story.
All I would say on the Charlie Kirk thing is if you don't know what happened, you have to realize that you don't know what happened. And you have to leave all possibilities open to see them and assess them. There's a lot more to the Charlie Kirk situation than most researchers are willing to even look at.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
I will leave the audience with this. As far as the Charlie Kirk assassination goes, and all the knee benders who tell you to stop listening to those asking questions, stop investigating for yourself, they will never tell you that 30 days after Charlie was butchered in broad daylight, that Tennessee weapons manufacturer blew up 30 days to the day after Charlie was assassinated. The same advanced energetic systems said to have accepted a $425,000 DOD contract for a shaped charge essentially used to assassinate people. I don't know. Just saying.
Listen, the day after poor Erica Kirk and her children lost their dad on a public execution, the next morning, Erica spent $10,000 buying gym clothes online at a very high-priced gym clothes place.
Well, now, in the interest of just let's curb a little bit of the hyperbole, because I follow this very closely. It was about $1,100 worth of garbage.
All right, 1,100. All right, not
1,100, and now her buddy, who is also this female woman tied closely to Erica, said, "No, that was me. I went out and I did that. It wasn't Erica, but I know exactly what you're talking about." And here's the thing. Candace didn't report that. Somebody else reported that, and then they used that to impugn Candace's entire investigation because somebody got that wrong because evidently it wasn't Erica, according to her friend. But who knows? Your point's a good one. She's not mourning like anybody who actually lost the husband she loves.
Listen, your kids, that does happen, and a couple days later, she's smiling ear to ear on podcasts, leaving the kids home with the nanny. Game over. There's something wrong here. It's not right. It's not real.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, all roads lead back to TPUSA leadership. There's missing millions of dollars, and none of these people want the truth uncovered. We're going to continue to cover that story because it's a huge story, one of the biggest stories in the world. Here's another important story, getting back to nukes. We talked about nukes. Are they real? Are they not real? Well, it's an important question to ask since this entire new war is based on the construct of Iran getting nukes and then destroying Israel, and then potentially long-range intercontinental missiles hitting the continental United States. So this war is to protect us from nukes, even though we were just told that we attacked Iran a few months back to prevent them from getting nukes, and we were told those attacks were successful. Guys, the world is a stage. Here's more from Matt, Cultivate, Elevate. I think Dave will appreciate this clip.
So if you want to laugh, this is Starlink right here. I found it with my Nikon 1000. There are balloons holding up satellites. So when people tell me we're going to space, here's my response. Here's Elon Musk. Remember that? When he was talking about we're going to Mars with balloons?
I got to get me one of those Nikon 1000s, Dave boys.
Yeah, I have one, and there's tens of thousands of balloons up there all the time. There's 970 launched worldwide twice a day, every 12 hours at the exact same time to check out all the weather. That's where we get all our weather information from. NASA controls all of the helium in the world. But here's another way to look at Starlink. Now, I don't believe satellites orbit the Earth because I don't believe in the in that whole system. So how does Starlink service work? That's a great question, right? So, Sean, have you ever looked up and seen the Starlink satellites, the line of satellites?
I know people who claim they have. And
I have
seen videos all over, but I've not seen them with my naked eye. No.
Yeah, so I've seen them with my naked eye, and it's incredible. It looks just like this, right? You just see these going across. Now, a Starlink satellite is about the size of maybe 3 human beings together. It's not that big. You can probably fit 10 or 20 of them inside of that engine of a 747. You look up at a 747 in the sky, you can't see the engines, and that's 7 miles if it's directly above you. These Starlink satellites, the closest they could ever get is 350 miles, and we see this, right? We see this. So what are we seeing? Well, you've seen drone shows like this, right? These are all coordinated drones, and all they have to do is make one line of white drones, and what do we have? We have this. Right? So interesting, Elon Musk's brother bought the largest fireworks replacement drone company in the world. That's weird. And lots of times you'll see these and one will blink out and then it'll blink back on again. I think this one's running out of battery. They send another one with the light off. It gets in place, turns on, turns off, and goes. And so, why would one blink out? These are reflecting sunlight. So that's problem number one. But again, how does Starlink service work? Let me ask you a question, John. Have you ever gone on a long drive on the phone the whole way and no problem, no connection issues?
Yeah.
I drove from South Jersey to Connecticut 3 hours on the phone the whole way with Sophia, by the way. Long talk when you talk to Sophia Smallstorm. And no disconnection. Now, what's going on there? I'm relaying from tower to tower to tower, and it's just a handoff, right? Well, let me ask you a question, Sean. Would those towers work if I unplug them? If they're all unplugged from the power grid?
Theoretically, no.
They wouldn't work. I mean, that's just a fact. So they wouldn't work.
Well, unless they're tapping into the ether.
Well,
I'm
again,
actually starting to believe that these people that are engineering total chaos in the energy markets and want to strip us down bare naked with nothing, literally, so that we can live like third world serfs, thereby we're all equal under United Nations Agenda 2030 policies. If the grid really got shut down to the extent they'd like it to, they all have that ether technology. I swear to God, they're living in their mansions off grid and they're pulling energy out of the air. That's what I believe.
100%. They're doing that. But real quick, finishing on this, the cell towers need to be serviced. They need a lot of electricity to transmit. Well, what if you took this Starlink equipment that's supposed to be in the sky and put it in the belly of every commercial airplane that now all of a sudden has Wi-Fi and internet service, and they say you're connecting to Starlink, you're connecting to airplanes. It's like roving cell towers. If cell towers were 7 miles high, they'd be amazing, right? No matter where you are, there's always a plane in view that you can connect to as a cell tower. And I asked ChatGPT about it, and they said, well, that would be very good, except where there's a big storm and they're diverting airplanes about it. I said, what if they put like a high-flying AWACS plane above it with the equipment? And it said that would be a very robust system. It would cost less. It would work better, because the other one I don't even understand how it could possibly work. So it would be cheaper and more efficient. So why wouldn't they do it, right? And then the last thing is, if you remember in the Vietnam War, the soldiers had these new radios that connected to AWACS airplanes, and they would relay the message to Washington. Mm-hmm. They were linking because of the curve of the Earth. No, they were linked because they were far away. But if you look at a Starlink receiver and the radios that they used in the Vietnam War, they're the same thing. So that's what Starlink is. And maybe they use some balloons. Maybe they use balloons for all different things. But Starlinks are airplane-based satellite equipment.
Well, yeah. I have a question for you.
Sure.
Hello, Neil and Buzz. I'm talking to you by telephone from the Oval Room at the White House. And this certainly has to be the most historic telephone call ever made.
It was a very historic phone call. From the moon to the White House in what, 1968, 69? That's amazing. How did that happen, Dave?
Yeah, no explanation. No explanation. I mean, the moon landing is the easiest thing ever. Once you look at it, just look at the LEM. It's made of tinfoil and curtain rods. And there's no possible way. Astronauts even talk about how the walls were so thin, they'd had to be careful not to drop something. How do you drop something in space? It would go through the wall, right? How does that hold pressure? You can't have a pressurized system in a vacuum without it exploding. Again, the way they get away with this is because people's minds are spinning out of control, lost in space, and they don't use their God-given critical senses. They just believe what they're told, and they make up excuses for what they were told based on nothing.
Well, it's interesting that we're having this conversation. Here's me trying to find a picture of the lunar lander. And I've seen it, by the way. It's at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. It's a literal joke, folks. Anybody who's seen it in person knows it's a complete joke. But nuclear plants on the moon is now openly being discussed. Next stop, Mars, right? Yeah. Wrong. It's all bullshit. But don't worry, folks. The yellow journalists over at Popular Mechanics, well, they have the Apollo lunar lander and lunar rover NASA schematics for you. Make it make sense. By the way, the same Popular Mechanics who told you World Trade Center 7 was brought down due to fires.
Yeah. If someone sheetrocked your basement and it looked like this, would you pay them? Right?
Now, hold on. That looks airtight. I could absolutely see traveling through space and time in that thing. And I think that it looks very similar to Ryan Gosling's spaceship. Yeah. It does not actually at all.
Yeah, this is absolute insanity what they did. And then on top of that, you got the rover. The rover is worse. Check this out. If you and I were in Mexico and we're going to the beach, I said, hey, don't worry, I got the beach chairs, and I brought these chairs. Would you still be my friend?
I know what beach you're talking about down there, Yucatan Peninsula, Mexico, God bless them. If you and I had a replica of the lunar lander, even if we were in, say, 30% of Earth's gravity, whatever they say the moon is, how would you and I, let's say we had a third astronaut helping us, how would we safely unpack that lunar rover from that lunar lander onto the surface, the sandy surface, the chalky sandy surface of the moon safely. How would we do that, Dave?
It's impossible. Once you look at the logistics, the size, everything, how did they play golf on the moon for 10 hours? Where did they get the air from? How long, what kind of air packs did they have? How come their suits didn't explode? They're in these snowboarding suits. They're not stiff, rigid bodies suits. And in no pressure, they would explode. It's insane what people just are willing to believe. But again, listen, emotionally, people are tied to the moon landing. People are tied to, being afraid of nuclear bombs. They have all of this fear in them, and they don't want to give it up because their whole life is built around it. But the thing is, Sean, people say, you flat earthers, you'll never change your mind. No. We changed our mind based on new information. You're relooking at some of the things that you believed. And listen, I'm not right about everything. I come up with things and I learn over time. We're not afraid to admit when we're wrong based on new information. People are afraid to go against the main opinion. Consensus is not science.
Here's the good news. First, the bad news. The bad news is, and Charlotte Iserbyt wrote the book about it, The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America, 1000%, the Bolshevik, the communist move to infiltrate our schools and dumb our kids down, 100% true. Obviously, it happened. It's one of the ways you conquer a nation, but here's the good news. And by the way, it's good news because when you go to school and you're taught the wrong stuff, you're taught wrong thing. Steve Martin did a great comedy bit about this years ago on his album. He did a funny bit, and I'll try to find it. We've been taught wrong think, folks, since birth. Here's the good news.
Colorado just reported that they are down 10,000 students because they are going to homeschooling. As a former teacher here, I find that quite interesting. And I think it needs to take some self-reflection to figure out why. Why are so many people going to homeschooling?
Well, for starters, public schools have become nothing more than political indoctrination camps. They push critical race theory, gender ideology. Everything's framed as oppressed versus oppressors, which is Marxist. They push the climate agenda, the feminist agenda, the collectivist agenda, the globalist agenda, and the atheist agenda. And none of it is academic. It all just functions as an indoctrination camp. So they frame anyone opposed to CRT as racist. Anyone who questions their science, a denier. And you get an F for that. You question the feminist agenda, you're a misogynist. Question the collectivist agenda, you're privileged. Say you're a nationalist, and they'll call you dangerous. And if you're the football coach, they won't let you say a Christian prayer before the game. Although apparently practicing other religions is fine. So public schools have become nothing more than indoctrination camps. And even if you agree with some of these agendas, that's not the point. This framing is the point. It's all indoctrination. So public schools teach math out of context, science that is fake, history that is political, and the students can't even read. And their version of so-called success is grades on a standardized test that make you eligible to take out student loans to go to college. And by the time you're 18, all you have to show for it is an indoctrination, starting your life in debt, a lack of critical thinking skills, no real-world skills, and no real-world experience. So yeah, people are pulling their kids out of public school in droves.
Thank God. Because here's the thing, Dave Weiss. Here's the thing. They control Washington, D.C., and at least in part the U.S. military. They control the energy flow. They control the propaganda, and therefore our minds until they don't. Until they don't. So this is a very dangerous time for the Bolsheviks, too, because people are waking up, and waking up pretty quick, Dave.
I have a bunch of things I want to say about the homeschooling. One, the homeschooling is amazing. I think sending your kid to public school at this point is child abuse. On my app, which you can find on my website, flatearthdave.com, I have a homeschool section. And right on the bottom here, we have a creation science homeschooling class where you can sign up with these guys. They're amazing. They're two former public school teachers that just couldn't do it anymore. They realized they were teaching nonsense, and they teach an incredible class. I actually I did a Zoom call with these kids. These are the smartest, brightest kids I've ever seen, and I've ever spoken to. Compared to every year, I do about 8. I do a Zoom call with 8 different senior classes of teaching them about flat Earth. And no matter what technique I use, They will not buy any of it. They will just say deny, deny, deny. If you mention God or the creator, you've completely lost them. The school has completely put God out of the even realm of possibility, right? School, did you? I mean, I hated school. I hated history class. And that's because deep down inside, I knew it was all lies. All of it was lies. Do you remember in school when they taught you when Christopher Columbus came here, he found, saw the Native Americans, but they found ruins of a very advanced civilization. Do you remember learning that in school?
No.
Yeah, because they didn't teach it in school, but get a textbook before 1910 and it talks about it. All the textbooks before 1910, they talk about it, but the Rockefellers took over the education system and all of the school books in 1902, and they removed all of that. I mean, you've looked into Tataria, you've looked into My Lunch Break. Anybody that doesn't know about the old world, there's a channel called My Lunch Break. Check him out. He's on he's on Rumble, BitChute, YouTube. Watch a couple episodes of that, and you'll realize that everything you ever learned in history was a complete and total lie.
All right, let's drive this point home. I'm going to get the app. I still don't have it. I'm going to buy this app from my son, who follows you, actually. He's always excited when I talk to you. He's like, Flat Earth, Dave? So I'm a little surprised that you get that kind of rejection, that kind of negative feedback when you try to teach 8th graders, did you say?
Well, no, seniors in high school.
Seniors in high school.
Yeah.
And they're not open-minded? They don't have any critical thinking curiosity at all to at least have the conversation with you?
We have the conversation, and this year he said, you know what? Stop asking me about flat Earth. Bring your globe proof. And they're like, well, seasons. And then we explained to them clearly how seasons don't work on a globe and how they only work on a flat Earth. And then if you don't cover one thing that they think proves the globe, they just ignore everything else out. And if you mention God, they will just deny it. Oh, and here's the other thing I wanted to say is, we got into that, like why the lie, who's behind this. And we talk about how there is a secret society, a cabal, if you will, that runs our government. None of them can even fathom that that's even a possibility.
Right.
No high school kid can even fathom that that's a possibility.
Yep. I know it's terrifying to me. The same is true with one of my neighbors who I really hold in high regard. I like him. We're friends. I really like him. Same thing. He just thinks it's a bridge too far to suggest there are secret societies running the world. And he can't articulate what the Club of Rome is. He doesn't know what the Trilateral Commission is. He can't espouse the views of David Rockefeller's CFR, Council on Foreign Relations. He probably hasn't heard about what goes on at the Bohemian Grove. I mean, that's the problem, Dave, is these people. Do you know what it is? It's Plato's cave. 100%. They just regurgitate the images they see on the cave wall.
Yeah. It's incredible. The good news is, there's some famous quotes. We talked about, the whole world's a stage, right? Albert Pike said, when the people need a hero, we shall supply him. Napoleon, now I don't even know if any of these people I'm mentioning were even real. I think they could just be inserted. Napoleon Bonaparte, history is a set of lies agreed upon. That's a fact. Right? William J. Casey, head of the CIA, will know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American people believes is false. Now, there's questions if that's exactly what he said. Alan Dulles, we will take literature, theaters, movies, everything, and use it to mold public opinion. Well, that's what they're doing. Edward Bernays, the consciousness and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses as an important element in the democratic society. The last one is William J. Donovan, who is the head of strategic services prior to the CIA. The real war will never get in the books. And that's a fact. Now, the back to Albert Pike, when the people need a hero, we shall supply him. We already have a hero. The hero is us together, right? Together, we can change this world. The world will become what we allow it to be. Now, think about this. Governments. Oh, the governments, what can we do against the governments? What power does the government have? The government only has the power that we believe they have, right? Say you and I were together and you've got a nice sandwich, a big sandwich. And I was like, hey, I got $20. Will you give me that sandwich? And you're like, I'm not hungry. Sure. You take my 20 on the belief that somebody else will take that 20 for something else. I got myself a sandwich, right? That's not a belief. Right? So government power is belief. What if everyone listened to this rant right here and goes, you know what? I'm no longer going to listen to anything the government says. What power would the government have? They'd have no power at all.
Well, I want to talk to you about that before I let you go, too. Let's circle back to that. Zip codes. Zip codes. Here's the thing. When we talk about a collapse, an engineered collapse, a coup, a takeover of our nation, I've been saying for a long time we're all Gazans now. It's quite possible that that type of dystopia comes to our nation. We're going to circle back to that, zip codes. But you mentioned something important. When you try to teach these kids and you say, okay, well, how about you guys bring me proofs of globe Earth? You bring me the proofs. They say seasons. You explain the seasons to them. Maybe some other stuff comes up. If you get one thing, one minutia, one little detail wrong, they throw out the baby with the bathwater. That's exactly what TPUSA and the knee benders are doing to Candace Owens. Exactly. So, despite Erica's lies about her past, which are provable, quantifiable, and many, despite her family military ties, we got Erica Kirk's lies and family military ties, TPUSA financials, which are in the trash. I mean, they had some real problems with their financials. Fort Huachuca, Egyptian military jets, the French legionnaires and the Macrons taking out a hit on Candace, exploding microphones with shaped charges. Never mind all of that in the litany of other questions. If somebody in Candace's orbit gets one little thing wrong, they throw out the baby with the bathwater. So I'm seeing some real parallels there, Dave.
Yeah, they'll go after any one little thing because, again, it's information overload. You'll just remember the last thing. Like most people don't remember what happened yesterday because there's a new thing today. So crisis, 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 crisis. You forgot the last five. You're just on the current one. Everyone forgot about the Epstein list when the war started. It's incredible how they just do this to us. Again, they need us to create their world, right? The reality we decide on is inevitable. Once we decide on it wholeheartedly, right? Most people in this world, they call, certain things that happen in luck. They're lucky. Yeah, hey, I was lucky. The people that have mastered this world, they just call it certainty. When they want something, they literally become it, and then the world delivers it to them.
Here's what I'm hoping to get your thoughts on. This keeps popping into my head just because, when Candace says the Bolsheviks are here, and I previously thought, well, that was, Bill Ayers, Weather Underground, the demon side, the demon rat side of the aisle. It hasn't infested the right side of the aisle. That appears to be completely untrue as the military industrial complex tentacles reach all the way down to Main Street, as revealed through Candace's investigation, and the fact that the military ties of so many people, not just Erica Kirk and her mom and her dad, so many people at TPUSA have deep family, familial military ties. Some of these names, Blake Neff, others, they keep coming up in the investigation with people related to them in the military. And it's spooky to me because if they were to engineer a collapse, which they may be trying to do right now with this war, first you're going to hit high energy prices. Then they're going to roll out Plandemic 2.0 style lockdowns in the name of energy. So you won't be able to drive your car. Then they're going to roll out food shortages, and we're down to our zip codes. We're down to our counties. We're down to our states, counties, and cities, and they know exactly who we are. They know exactly where we live. They know exactly what our names are. They know exactly what our political beliefs are. So thank God there's an awakening, but guess what? They could balkanize us and then starve us out. So just because we have a First Amendment, just because we have a Second Amendment, that does not protect us if they've taken over our country. And I'm asking Dave Weiss for his opinion. What in the hell are we going to do about it, Dave?
So, I mean, with the COVIDs, people opted in. They're like, oh, yeah, I'll do it. And we agreed. This one is not going to be easy. This one, you don't have fuel. You don't have gas, for your home or your car. If you don't have electricity, even if you don't have, what was I going to say, food, we're just going to be fighting for our survival. So at this one, I think if they pull off what they're doing, it's the people that have prepared, the people that know how to grow food, the people that have communities. We need to come together. They want us 6 feet apart. We need to know your neighbors. Most people don't know who their next door neighbor is anymore, right? We used to all talk, hang out on the street. You need to form groups and work together because we're going to go through some really crazy times if they're able to pull this off. Now, I think many things could happen to change this. This system that we live in has to come down, right? It has to come down. So coming down is going to be painful. And then if we can just get through the next couple of years, I think we'll have a way more beautiful world behind us. But people have to wake up. People have to stop feeding the system.
1,000%. And as I said, do not comply with any new lockdowns. If you're driving on a day where they tell you it's not your day to drive, you tell them to go straight to hell. Show me the law. Show me the law, not color of law. You want to issue me a ticket? I'll see you in court, and then I'll sue you personally. We cannot allow this to happen a second time, because a second time will be the last time, folks. The lockdowns will never end. And by the way, when it comes to the Great Awakening, these Bolsheviks are going to have their hands full, because we the people do have a Second Amendment. And with leadership now questioning those at the top who tell us Trump is ordained by God for this, be not afraid because he's going to usher in the second coming of Christ, that's blasphemy.
When's the last time Iran has invaded another country? Wasn't it like 200 years ago?
Yeah, like never. Oh, and by the way, that war between Iran and Iraq, that was a CIA-sparked war that lasted 8 years. And then who had to go into Iraq? We did after 9/11. It's a complete and total shit show, my friend. It's a complete and total joke.
It's very clear this is a war of choice by President Trump. There was no imminent threat against the American people, against American facilities or persons. This is a war that is going to be borne on the backs of working class Americans who have suffered, financed, fought over 20 years of war. Enough is enough. It is time for Congress to get involved, retake its constitutional authority, to return the American people back into the driver's seat on matters of war and peace.
Okay. That's a former Army Ranger, Representative Jason Crow. At least he's not wearing a funny little cube on his head and bending the knees, pledging his allegiance to the Jews, to Israel. Dave?
It's incredible. I mean, I have no words for this, Sean. It's just incredible. Like, why are we in? Like, when did you go? When's the last time you said, "Oh, those damn Iranians, they've been driving me crazy. We better attack them"? Have they been annoying you for the last couple decades? The Iranians.
Well, God love you. This is what I've been saying. The Charlie Kirk assassination cover-up, the Epstein emails and clients cover-up, and this war are all interrelated. Those three things are interrelated. And to answer your question, no, it's not been the Iranians that have been kidnapping children and trafficking in children and blood-sacrificing children all over the world in dungeons for decades, for centuries. It's not the Iranians that have been doing that. It's another class of people. And in fact, I would call them demons. It's a class of demonic people, Dave, and it's not the Iranians.
Netanyahu, you've seen the montage of him saying the Iranians are going to have nukes in a couple of weeks, a couple of months, over the decades. He kept saying it again and again and again and again and again. Well, first, remember what we now know about nukes, if you have the courage to look into it. But it's all a stage show. Now, Iran, they might just be, bystanders in this. Like, you know what? We better build up our underground, drone bombs in case this happens so we can defend ourselves. But they've never attacked anybody. We're the attackers. We're the terrorists.
Yeah, and we drew first blood in this instance at Israel's behest. And I don't think it's going the way Trump wanted it to go. So now he's talking about troops on the ground, and that's where every person listening is going to have to make a choice. Are you going to stand for this beastly system and send your treasure to a foreign nation state to die in an absolute pointless war, in my opinion? Or are you going to stand up to the beastly system and do not comply? Ladies and gentlemen, here's flatearthdave.com. What should people know about your website and your app?
My app basically gets through the Google censorship. It's right at the top of the page there. It teaches you about flat Earth. It helps you teach others. There's so many functions on it right now. There's you can find like-minded people on there. There's a dating section on it because people are like, I'm a flat earther. How am I going to find somebody? So I've done so much with this app. I actually just added a jobs board. There's a jobs board. So we want to work with like-minded people. So if you have a job or you're looking for a job, post it on the jobs board. I just launched it, and I'm only allowing like-minded people on there. I didn't backfill it with 50,000 jobs that are available. It's just for like-minded people to work together. So, in 2014, they used to go, you flat earthers, you're never going to get a job. Well, guess what? We don't want to work with you. We want to hire other open-minded, clear, actual thinking people to work for and work with. So on my website, if you don't want to get the app, that's fine. Scroll down, crash course. If you watch the first 4 or 5 videos, you will know that we don't live on a globe, and you'll understand the foundation of the lie that keeps us away from, allows all of these other horrible things that are going on in the world to happen. What difference does the shape of the earth make? The shape doesn't matter. It's the lie that matters, right? And the big thing they have is gravity. Gravity is their excuse for everything. Gravity and refraction, right? The only thing gravity does is, the only thing gravity pulls is you away from God. That's all it does, right? Once you understand that gravity is a theory, and you understand that electrostatics run this world, that frequencies run this world, that we're in a spiritual war, then you will thrive. You have to look at the information, but they've brainwashed everybody so well to refuse to look at the information. I was brainwashed, right? If I was watching a podcast long before Flat Earth, and at the end, I'm like, wow, I got 3 pages of notes on 9/11. They're doing great stuff. And then they say, oh, let's open up a page in the Bible. Let's pray. I'd tear up the notes. I'd unsubscribe, and I'd call them religious kooks. Now, I'm not a person of organized religion. I'm a person that knows there's a creator, and I have my personal relationship. So there you go.
Well, you left us with a good quote. That's a good closer. The only thing that gravity does is pull you away from God. I like that. I like that very much. Our guest has been David Weiss, flatearthdave.com. I'll leave the link below. Hey, man, it's good to connect with you as always. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Great talking to you.
All right. Friends, thank you so much. Appreciate you, your open mind, and the candor that it requires to have conversations like this. Do you have conversations like this in your sphere of influence, within your sphere of influence? Probably not. It's hard. It's hard. It's like talking to those high school seniors who have been indoctrinated since birth. I've had the conversations with my neighbors. It's tough out there. Pray. Pray, pray, pray. Pray for divine intervention, folks. We need it. And I'll remind you guys every single day for free. Check us out to get the real news 24/7 at sgtreport.com. And until next time, may God, the Creator, the one true God of the Bible, may he continue to bless you and yours. Bye-bye.
They are fanatics. They have a fanatic view. That's why they can kill kids and do horrible stuff, is that they are true believers. This isn't old. The same thing happened in AD 70 and 150 AD. These are the same heirs of that.
Yeah.
2,000 years later. They've already tried to build the third temple. The guy's name was Julian the Apostate, and it was in 331.
Yep.
And he couldn't do it. He was like stymied. There were earthquakes. There was all this stuff. Like, where is the biblical or prophetic word to build the third temple? Like, where is it? Like, I don't think it's extant. It's just these rabbinical
That's right.
Jews want to do it.